We know you don't intend it to happen. We know you don't want it to happen. But when it does occur, it happens more often than you think. That is why I need to ask you the question, are you disabling your employees? No way, you're probably thinking, how can I disable our school district employees? They are the ones who get themselves injured. Employees are the reason our work comp claim costs are so high. This is Suzanne Metz, Return to Work Manager for Puget Sound Workers' Compensation Trust. Welcome to this 15-minute introductory problem-solving session on how to spend less time and less money and get better results from your workers' compensation program by using your Return to Work program. Now make sure you have your handout, Solutions Checklist printed and ready to take notes. When school district leaders meet to talk about workers' compensation insurance, work injury claims, and their employees, we can expect the internal and those external conversations to focus on three key employer problems. Let's spend a few minutes on the highlights. First, money seems to be at the top of the problem list. When we start looking at the administrative costs, medical costs, time loss benefits, those vocational counselors, legal expenses for the most problematic claims, and then impairment awards and settlements, we can't forget the school district money that must be set aside for claim reserves. It all adds up fast. Second, you want some return on the investment. School districts, like any other employer, want the best results possible. And with so much spent on work conditioning, work hardening, vocational training plans, employers start looking at the results. You may notice that not all of your employees are returning to full-duty work. Some may not be returning to work at all. So with the money spent on those temporary labor costs and the extra time staff needs to manage the claims internally, districts expect and need better results from their programs. Third, some employees are not back to work as expected. With employees sitting at home and not working, business as usual is disrupted for school districts. Week after week, managers and supervisors hope for some updates on the availability of their employees for work. They want to understand. They need to make business decisions for their departments. Supervisors and managers have work to do. They wonder why it takes so long for some employees to return to work. We must first acknowledge the problem in order to solve the problem. And that is why we must focus on return to work programs. I'm here to tell you that the best practice of a return to work program and the resulting employee leave management is the solution. In this first short session, we will introduce the subject of work injury disability syndrome. We will recommend that you evaluate your district's unintentional role in disabling employees or unknowingly extend their disability. Then we will start the conversation on simple, cost-neutral solutions to the money and employee problems that districts often experience. Now, how are we using the term cost-neutral? Well, here's the deal. Cost neutral means that you may need to spend a little extra time, and as leaders, you may need to expend a little extra effort. However, the resulting benefit for this little bit of time and effort is huge and won't cost any money for your district. If you are looking at your handout right now, you'll find on page 1 the solutions checklist. This is a table of the most common disability syndrome causes and some quick solutions to make sure that you're not disabling your employees. Page 2 is the leadership plan worksheet. You'll use this to start assigning roles and responsibilities. You want to have the right people at the table to start discussing the solutions. And the last page is a calendar for the next 3 months. Use this calendar to pick a date and set up a meeting with me to start your annual program review. You'll notice that April 21st is highlighted for the webinar that will tell you all about it, how to prepare for it, and how easy it is. The webinar is your annual program review. You'll receive more information on the webinar and webinars to come from the website and from Sound Advice. Let's start with a simplified perspective on school districts. Communities give their schools 2 important resources. First, their money, the fuel to your success. And the other important and essential resource are the members of your community who become your school employees. It's a very simple transaction. School districts receive money and workers to educate and prepare the children of the community to become productive workers. Districts are stewards of their community's money and their human resources. Each worker was hired from the community for a purpose. Districts spend a lot of time and money to attract, educate, train, motivate, and reward their employees. The Puget Sound Workers' Compensation Trust Return to Work program was designed to address both your school district management needs, money and people. Why are we putting so much emphasis and energy on getting your employees back to work? Although there is no law that states your school district must have a return to work program, having one is a best practice that makes compliance with the law so much easier. If employers forget, ignore, or dismiss their legal responsibility to their employees, the federal, state, and often the local regulations are strict reminders. There are real and expensive consequences to employers who are willfully negligent. In future presentations, we will discuss how employees are protected and what employers must do to comply with the laws. For our time right now, please realize that your injured employees are a protected group. In our state, Washington, ADA may apply to an employee who has a serious long-term temporary work-related disability, like a work-related fractured leg. That is why Human Resources needs to be involved with employee leave management. This means monitoring every work comp time loss claim where time loss is extended and the supervisor or manager is not accommodating work restrictions. The consequence for not managing employee leave resulting from work injury claims is worker disability syndrome. This is how employers disable their employees. Disability syndrome is an expensive, serious, and very real psychosocial issue. It can occur when an individual with a work-related injury or other disability is unable or is blocked from returning to work, when it's been medically determined that they are capable of doing at least some of their job. The contributors to the development of disability syndrome include systems or rules that discourage employees' return to work. The other major contributor to employee disability syndrome is the supervisor or manager who refuses to let an employee return to work if the employee is not 100% able to do all of the job tasks and functions. The factors are pain, loss, financial stress, and uncertainty about the future, multiplied by an increasing sense of helplessness. When an employee is not returned to some form of work, the social and psychological impact can be enormous. Often alone and at home, in pain and incapacitated from doing even simple cleaning and self-care, the worker becomes depressed and anxious. They are cut off from the social interaction at work and the shared purpose from their work group. Worried about their future, they begin to wonder if it's even possible to return to work. If they believe that their supervisor or manager no longer cares, their emotional loss is far worse than job loss. Injured employees are often trapped by financial loss as well. If the worker does not have sick leave, vacation leave, or personal savings to supplement time loss benefits, their ability to maintain even the basics of food, shelter, along with their other financial commitments, erodes very rapidly. School employees believe in school safety until they are injured. Why? They believe in safety because their school district leaders constantly tell them that safe schools are for everyone. School districts must work through their employees to create and maintain an environment of emotional and physical safety for students. Your frontline school employees are the ones who create those safe and stable relationships for students to have the best learning environment. From management messages and training, employees believe they are part of the safe environment until they are injured and immediately become outcasts due to their injuries. Employers must make school safety a reality for all, especially for injured employees. It can be devastating for school employees to find their belief in a supportive, safe workplace is wrong, blocked from returning to work, and the imagined stability of the school environment. Their physical pain is increased by emotional pain and stress. The increasing perception of helplessness sets in and affects marriages, family relationships, overall health, particularly mental health. When employees are afraid or they believe their employer no longer cares, they often turn to attorneys for support and solutions. And this often makes the situation worse. Many work comp attorneys who represent employees discourage early return to work or modified duty simply to increase their revenue. This usually sets up an even more adversarial relationship between the employer and the employee. Let's end this session with a look at how our everyday language and meanings reinforce employee or worker disability syndrome. When employers refuse to let employees with work restrictions return and do medically approved work, the employer is telling the employee, we consider you incapable. You're no longer qualified to do the work. We are labeling you as disabled. Those labels incapacitate employees far beyond their doctor-assigned physical restrictions. When school employees are denied an opportunity to have an interactive conversation with their employer, and when they are denied of their right to request reasonable accommodation, they are being disabled. What do we need to change? We need to first change our thinking and the conversation. Let's talk about what injured employees can do. Employees are enabled when they are provided with the means or opportunity to work within their capacity and make a contribution to their school districts and their work community. In 90% of the cases I see on my desk, if a worker can arrive at the workplace, the worker can probably do something to benefit the employer. They simply need the chance. All school districts need to do is give their employees an opportunity to do the work that they were hired to perform, to permit them to work with modifications, to maintain their benefits, feed their families, retain their dignity, and remain a productive member of their communities. Think about it this way. Your employees are your community. What can you do right now? Start the conversation at your school district. As board trustees, human resource professionals, and supervisors, begin by reviewing the ways that you can enable your injured employees. Take out the handout and look at the solutions checklist. Scan the list of common disability syndrome causes, and then look in the middle column for those no-cost solutions. Make a check next to the solutions you'd like to discuss or further discuss or explore with your staff or colleagues. If you have any questions, call me or send me an email message. You're done with this short webinar. What's next? You can take a break, get a beverage, stretch, or you can go on to view the next 15-minute companion video, Part B, talking about the solutions. Now remember, it just takes less than 2 minutes to complete the solutions worksheet for this session. We'll gather again at Part B. See you there.